Okay then, time for the dwarves, and I have actually already done this once, but unfortunately Nvidia decided that it didn't like my better microphone, so I'm having to switch back to my headset, so the audio quality is going to be down a little bit again, I'm afraid, but no matter. We'll get to the dwarves, and I know basically what army composition I want to pick this time as well, so it should be nice and quick to set up, so we'll go through the composition once the battle is set up. Now then, time to go through the dwarven roster. And the dwarves' strength is heavy infantry, pure and simple, and obviously heavy infantry is where the majority of the power in this game lies, particularly when you get down to like a slogfest in like a choke point or something. Heavy infantry is going to be what will ultimately carry the day, and the dwarves are no different in this. The dwarves have got easily the best heavy infantry in the game, including the best single unit of heavy infantry, which would be these guys, the Guards of Khazad-dûm. They are very expensive, but they're just 1v1. There is no heavy infantry unit which will be able to beat these guys. The Smiths won't be able to beat them simply because they're outnumbered, and everything else is just lower in quality compared to this. The Dwarven Noblemen are of similar quality, but they do have a lot less in their unit because they are the General's bodyguard, so, you know, they're good, but you've got to remember that they are quite heavily outnumbered by a regular unit, so they will probably lose to something like Swan Knights. The Iron Guard, however, have a possibility of being the second best heavy infantry unit in the game, I think. Maybe the Dismounted Dunedain Knights can beat them. I haven't actually tried that, but they are certainly up there. So the Guards of Khazad-dûm and the Iron Guard, these two potentially, certainly top 5 heavy infantry units, with the Guards being the best. This gives you an enormous amount of power on the battlefield compared to a lot of other factions. And the Dragon Slayers aren't half bad either. I mean, they're not top 5, but they're certainly a very, very good unit which can go toe-to-toe with most other units, particularly if you're up against the Orc factions, which I will be. The Dragon Slayers are better than anything they have to offer. They also have pretty good shock infantry. The Axemen you won't really see an awful lot of, but the Axemen of Erebor, they are pretty darn good at being shock infantry. They can do a lot of damage on the charge. They aren't as durable as the other units of heavy infantry that I've already spoken about, but nonetheless they will do a lot of damage if used correctly, just like any other shock infantry. And something else that the dwarfs do incredibly well is their pikes. Both their high tier pikes, the Vault Wardens, which very good massable pike unit. The problem with the Gondorian pikes is very expensive to mass. These guys not so much. So potentially, in practical terms, these could be the best pikes in the game, I don't know. The Dwarven Halberdmen, however, are a cheaper alternative, and they do the job very well themselves. They've always done me proud whenever I've used them on multiplayer battles, particularly in a situation like the Mines of Moria, where you've got lots of narrow choke points. These guys will do very well, although if you catch them out of Spear Wall, chances are they will die more quickly than a lot of other factions' better pikes. But if you need to save money anywhere in your army to afford your heavier infantry, maybe trade out the Vault Wardens for these guys, and you won't be too disappointed, I don't think. They're low-tier infantry units. The Dwarven Warriors are pretty good low-tier. In fact, they're a very good low-tier for their price, but, well, they do suffer a bit from the same problem as the Sword Quindi, in the fact that they are kind of expensive next to other, like, low-tier units, but these guys, I think, are actually worth their price, unlike the Sword Quindi, which can be shot to pieces by arrows. These guys, a little bit more durable, like the dwarves in general. These guys, however, the miners, I think, are where the dwarves fall down a little bit. I don't think these guys are cost-effective at all, but then chances are you won't actually be seeing these at all. So what about the weaknesses of the dwarves? Well, the obvious one is they only have one cavalry unit, and it's not very good next to other high-tier cav units. So it's a similar problem to the orcs, and the dwarves are very slow in general, so they really could do with a bit of mobility, and this doesn't really, the Dale cav doesn't really provide it enough, in my opinion. Then there's their skirmishers. Now these guys, the axe throwers, are kind of like the marines and the axemen of Gundabad. They will throw their axes once and then charge in, which would be fine if they were better in melee, but these guys I think are a waste of money when you've got such a good roster around it. And then there's the Iron Crossbowmen. These guys are fantastic crossbows. They will really chop units to pieces if given the opportunity, but the problem is their range against composite bows. Chances are, against a faction with good archers like Dale, or the Elves, or even Arnor, Gondor, you're going to be outranged, and that's going to force you into the attack, and that's not really what the dwarves want to be doing when they're this slow. It's not saying they can't do it, their muscle really does allow them to be quite deadly on the attack, but you're much better if you can force the enemy to come to you. The crossbows can do this, but you need to get dangerously close, and enemy cav can be a real problem in that scenario. So now I will pick my army, which, as I've said before, I already know what I want to pick near enough. So it was these, and then it was a group of 5 Vault Wardens, and a group of 2 Halberds, and then the rest were crossbows. And then everything else will be upgrades. The Guards of Khazad-dûm already have the maximum amount of armor allowed, kind of similar to the Guards of Orthanc in that capacity, only they're much better than the Guards of Orthanc. Not that they're a bad unit, but it's a discussion for when we get to Isengard, which may well be the next faction overview I do. We'll see. But as I said, in the last, I've already done this once, so I know pretty much how it should play out. There's only one area of the battle which might cause me some problems, and that's the trolls. They can punch a hole in my pike line and cause a bit of a problem, but ultimately, if the AI does the same thing as last time, I'll just be able to pile on the trolls and just kill them that way, which I think is the way to go. So what do I want to do with regards to upgrades? Can I give each one of the Vault Wardens a chevron? I think that's where they would be most usefully spent. And 0 florins. Very efficient. Okay. I'll be facing off against Mordor, the Misty Mountains, and Isengard, with Isengard being the slightly smaller army. Okay, so let's deploy. This time Mordor's in the center. I'm going to deploy over here, I believe. No, it was over here, wasn't it? Because I need to make it so that my crossbows have got a favourable angle to shoot from, otherwise they're just going to waste their ammunition. And the crossbows need to not waste their ammunition, because these guys don't have a lot of ammunition overall. So you need to use them wisely, because they can potentially be so damaging. Okay. So we want you guys in guard mode. Isengard are going to be coming from that direction, but that's not a terrible problem for me, I don't think, because they are the smaller army. So... right, the pikes are all in position, which means the halberd men can go over here, form a bit more of an effective barrier when the orcs of the Misty Mountains come along with their numerous infantry. I think we might want to actually get them back a little bit further, so there's enough room for my support line of Iron Guard. If the trolls do punch a sizable hole in my line, then I'll need to deploy these guys to stop the bleeding, so to speak. The Guards of Khazad-dûm can be right at the back, and we'll have one unit of... actually wait, we want the Axemen of Erebor to be on hand so they can get a nice charge off. Or do we want these guys a bit further back so they can charge? They have a bit more of an opportunity to charge. So we'll put the Dragon Slayers here. I could form shield wall with my heavy infantry. All the Dwarven heavy infantry has shield wall capabilities, which in itself is also something which makes them horrendous to fight against when you have to take over a Dwarven held castle in a siege battle. It's pretty much... you pretty much have to handicap the dwarves even more in terms of money when it comes to that, because they're so good in a siege battle. But this time, we're not on a siege battle. In pitch battles, maybe the dwarves aren't quite as good because of their lack of care and their lack of mobility and the fact that you can force them to attack you with their lack of range. But they still have a pretty good claim as being one of the best factions in a pitch battle, just because their infantry is so damn good. Got the Guards of Khazad-dûm. These guys are such a fantastic unit to have. They are very, very expensive, but one unit of these guys can cause so much problems. Alright, we're going to have to fast forward, I believe. Otherwise the enemy are never going to get here in time. Mordor are in the middle. Last time they were too far away, so this time hopefully they'll attack straight away. The Misty Mountains are technically going to be the reinforcement column. Last time Isengard came up to me and just let me shoot them to pieces with the crossbows. Which did, I guess it kind of wasted my ammo, but that was a unit of Guards of Orthanc, a unit of Veterans, 2 units of Veterans. You know, those are units which could potentially do some damage if you use them correctly. More so the Veterans on the offensive. The Guards of Orthanc need to be used a bit more carefully because they're spears. Looks like Isengard are going to be heading in first again. Right, I actually think it might be worth my time to wait a second. Get you guys to go there like so. Wait a second. Guard mode. Put you guys over here like that. And yeah, the halberds are in guard mode as well. Last time I forgot to put these guys in guard mode, and it did cause a little gap in my line, but they were already committed at that point, so it didn't matter over much. This might actually be the stronger part of my line as a result of Vault Wardens and Dragon Slayers, but the halberd men are a surprisingly good unit. I like them a lot for their price. They're very cost effective. It looks like Mordor are going to be the first ones in this time, which makes more sense, although they're not. They're going to be a bit more frugal with their trolls this time, which I don't blame them. The trolls are really their only real chance at breaking through my pike line with sheer force. Still not in range of my crossbows. As you can tell, like archers, elven archers especially, would be in range by now of the Dunlending clansmen. Whereas my crossbows still pretty far out of range. I want to choose my targets wisely. I don't really care about the clansmen. But the veterans might be a good unit to go after. The Uruk halberds would be a good unit to go after, because, you know, they will be able to engage my pikes somewhat effectively in melee. But provided it goes the same way as last time, I'll be able to flank around with my Axemen of Erebor and just break them systematically. But this is, you know, the army I've given them is no joke. It's pretty much on the same level as the sort of threat I was facing as Rohan. And Rohan didn't bear up too well. So let's see. I'm in range of a unit of clansmen. Well, we're certainly firing. Well, this is going to force them to attack. But yeah, you can see the crossbows will shred through low tier infantry like it's not even there. The Guards of Orthanc, because they have very high armor, will bear up pretty well. Any high armor units will do not too badly against crossbows, but crossbows will still make mincemeat of them if you leave them there for too long. Right, it looks like they are going to be on the attack. The Misty Mountains will arrive on the scene later. They have a lot of infantry, but we'll see how it goes. Right, you attack those Uruk halberds. You attack those Uruk halberds. You attack the Morin on guard. Actually, we need to get you guys in guard mode so we don't start pursuing dudes. I guess you just keep shooting the clansmen. They'll probably break at some point. They don't seem too eager to come in. This is the same sort of thing they did last time, only this time I have Mordor targets to go after as well. The Morin on guard are being ripped apart. They're a pretty good unit to go after because they're not terrible. They're very cost-effective spears if used correctly, but unfortunately the AI does not use anything cost-effectively, really. Wait a second. You guys go after those halberds. And you guys go after those halberds as well. Whenever you're arcing shots with crossbows like that, you're mostly wasting their potential. You will do some damage, but nowhere near as much as you need to, really. Dunland veterans. They seem to be pulling back. Where are they? I'm just going to keep my crossbows in position, I think. Go after those Uruk halberds. That's a nice juicy target. They are letting me just go to town on them. Those Dunland veterans are going to charge in. No, they're not. I think they are just going to wait for me to expend all my ammo on their ranks, which is a very strange tactic to use. And honestly, if you can use your crossbows like this, you're going to have a field day. But no human player is going to let you, really. Those Uruk halberds have been depleted a great deal. That's a real waste, because I've given them pretty decent pikes to use on my pikes. If you can engage in a pike battle and then reinforce it with infantry, you might actually do some damage to my Vault Wardens, but not like that. Because at this rate, they're going to break as soon as they come into contact with my front line. They look cool, don't they? I love the bolts flying overhead as well. Vault Wardens are certainly a very good unit. The Misty Mountains Orcs are going to arrive on the scene fairly soon. If they attack as one, they might actually be some danger. Simply because their numbers may just wash over me, but at this point I really doubt it. They just haven't... Right, let's go after those Dunlending veterans. They're a pretty decent unit to shoot down. Right, which one of... Right, you guys are not using your ammo efficiently. Oh well. Iron crossbows are, like all Dwarven units, are pretty survivable in melee as well. They've got these shields, which makes them, pretty dangerous. And these two units aren't in the best place because there's a hump in front of them with my iron guard on it. But they're still going to get some decent kills. Just firing into that clump, going to get clansmen and Morin on guard kills with that, so I'm happy with that. The veterans are going to take a lot of damage. Losing a lot of troops. 10% of their army is gone already and no one is even engaged in melee. Although it is worth saying that I don't have much ammunition left and I don't have any siege. And this map would be pretty good for siege. Simply because I can use it without the siege refusing to fire because my own men are in the way. And so the Misty Mountains Orcs are here, which is somewhat concerning because now all of them are amassed. Heavy Goblin infantry, there's Orc bodyguards somewhere as well, there they are, Misty Mountains General. The enemy is before me. Actually, I think what we're going to have to do here is move up in shield wall. And get into guard mode. This doesn't leave me a lot of reserves, really. But it does look like the Misty Mountains Orcs, despite being the furthest ones away, are going to make the first move. Right, we're pretty much out of ammunition at this point. But we've done a pretty decent amount of damage. We've killed 12% of their army. And now we can use these guys as infantry reserves where our line is going to be in a bit of danger. Right, I'm wondering if these Dragon Slayers are actually going to get in position fast enough. Right. We'll move the Axemen out a bit further, just in case they try and flank around. Just in case we need to reinforce the line with more infantry, we'll bring some crossbow units out. Misty Mountains Orcs are the ones taking the first charge, which is, I guess, a pretty good idea because they're the freshest army. Got some Orc bands swinging out wide. The defeat seems certain. Right, where are the trolls? There they are. When the trolls charge into my line, I need to deploy at least 2 units of Iron Guard to stop them. Just so we stop the bleeding quickly. Right, those veterans are going to be routed pretty quickly, I think. Right, so if we put these crossbows in reserve over here. Still got my Guards of Khazad-dûm in reserve. They're not going to get very far. against my halberds. None of them are going to get very far against my Vault Wardens at this point. Right, the trolls are coming in, so... At least I think that's the idea. The trolls are just sort of stood there in front of my pike line. So I mean, I'm fine with them just... Right, the... Ooh, halberds. Okay. We'll send in a unit of iron crossbowmen to sort of make the line thicker. Right, and also that this looks like the main... where the main event is happening. So we need to... If I can target the right unit, that would be good, fantastic. There we go. Send in 2 units of Iron Guard to thicken up that part of the line. Ooh. Got a lot of units over here. Send in some Iron Crossbows to deal with them. Right, let's send in the... actually, no, wait. We'll send in some Iron Crossbowmen to help deal with the Orc Band. The Orc Band aren't really much of a concern, but wrapping around like that, they could do some damage, I suppose. Still got 1 Iron Crossbow, 1 Iron Guard, and 2 Guards of Khazad-dûm in reserve, just in case things go a bit pear-shaped. Right, we can squash Goblin Infantry in off a charge, and they're not in very good formation, and they're shaken already. Victory is a distinct possibility, okay. Let's get our final unit of Iron Crossbows over there. How are the trolls doing? Oh, I've only killed 2 of them. How is my lines doing? There's this unit of Vault Wardens which don't seem to be doing very well, so I'm going to charge in some Iron Guard to stop the bleeding. These Iron Crossbows are doing kind of well. Right, you need to run. We need you on this flank. This unit of Dragon Slayers is doing pretty well. This unit is kind of depleted. My Vault Wardens have taken kind of a beating. I suppose that's because I did give the enemy some pretty decent amount of pikes. The Mordor army, anyway. Right, we need to flank around and crush this part of the line. This is a pretty thick part of the line, but there's not many troops of quality here. They seem to have deployed most of their quality in the centre. What the hell are you doing? How are the trolls getting along? Right, the trolls are starting to die due to the sheer amount of Iron Guard I've deployed in there. Not a terrible surprise, really. Okay, what have we got here? Axemen of Erebor. Victory seems certain because they're up against goblins with wooden shields and they've got enormous axes. They are putting up more of a fight than last time. That's because they did attack as one, which did mean that my line in some places started to struggle. Those Uruks, defeat seems certain. So we've killed half of 2 of their armies, which I assume would be Isengard and probably Mordor. They've killed a fair amount of my troops though. Fair play to them. The Dragon Slayers in Shield Wall are very tough to kill. They haven't got enough quality infantry around there to do the job, but over here they have 1 Mountain Troll, which is charging into my Axeman. Right, my other Dragon Slayer unit is in kind of a tight spot. Right, well the thick part of the line at the front is going to do very well. We'll charge in some crossbows into the mix. Right, I think it's time for my general to go in over here against the heavy goblin infantry. Because we are starting to break them now, so we may as well make our advantage stick. The halberd men did very well. I assume they didn't have as much workload as the Vault Wardens, particularly in the centre here, where there was halberds and all sorts. This looks like an area where I could use some Guards of Khazad-dûm as well. Heavy... Or is that the same sort of area? Yeah, it is. Okay, well we'll put another unit sort of over here. Heavy Goblin Infantry defeat seems certain. The Uruks defeat is a distinct possibility. Yep, it does. Uruks are breaking, the guards of Orthanc are not engaged in the battle. Okay, and you guys... where should I deploy you guys? You're not actually needed anywhere. Well, we may as well throw you in here. Seems like that's where a lot of the enemies are. And this really demonstrates how strong the Dwarven infantry is. Like, that was not a joke army I gave the enemy. They got a lot of their decent stuff, like heavy goblins for the Misty Mountains. They got a unit of trolls. They got quite a lot of Uruks, quite a lot of Uruk halberds. Obviously, they had a lot of trash as well, but then, you know, that's the idea behind the Orcs. This is generally the sort of armies you're going to be fielding. They also have, like, you know, Isengard, the Guards of Orthanc, Dunland veterans. You know, these units are not bad. And yet the Dwarves units are just far, far too strong. Far too strong for them. They're deploying more and more, but it's just not going to be enough. I've got my heavy infantry in amongst my pikes. How good am I, these Dunland clansmen, like, over here, like, they seem to have done a pretty good job at stopping my axemen. On the other flank as well, my axemen took kind of a beating. My Dragon Slayers over here seem to be grinding to a halt, actually. But I do have a unit of crossbows helping them, I believe. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, this part of the line seems kind of ropey. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll break formation and charge in our halberds, just to give them a hand. This unit of clansmen will not last too long either, and then we can wrap around with our axemen. They're eager and warmed up, so we'll charge into that. Actually, we'll charge in here. Goblin infantry is not going to do anything to the guards of Khazad-dûm. Orc band are routing to Dragon Slayers. Right. We'll send in the crossbows and the Dragon Slayers. Right, we'll get you guys out of shield wall and out of formation so you can just mob the guards of Orthanc. Seems like some of my guards of... oh no, my Axemen of Erebor are fighting them. Speaking of which, what about on this flank? Yep. Their lines are breaking, so we'll charge in there. They didn't even move my line, really. Even the trolls got kind of bogged down. Last time the trolls did a better job of punching through my line, but they were unsupported. Whereas this time they were supported, but they didn't... I don't know, like... I don't know what I'd have done differently as the AI. I think what I would have done is probably picked one part of the line to just focus on and just try and smash through. Like, go trolls first, and then halberds, and then heavy infantry. If this is the sort of situation you're in against the dwarves, that's what I would recommend. Let's see. Enormous amount of kills, of course. I don't think the crossbows would have got the majority, though. The Axemen got a high amount. The Dragon Slayers did very, very well. The Iron Guard did well. The Guards of Khazad-dûm weren't deployed until late on, which is generally what you're going to find. Halberds did well. Well, the crossbows still got the highest amount of kills. So yeah, there is the dwarves. Hugely powerful. Not really a great deal you can do about them in this sort of situation. They're certainly the strongest faction when it comes to a siege. Defensive or offensive, I think, because the mobility factor is kind of taken out of it. Whereas on a pitch battle, they're still one of the best, simply because their infantry is so damn good. So, next up, I think I'll be going for Isengard as one of the evil factions. They're kind of one of the more unique factions, because they don't really have an equivalent, kind of like the dwarves in a way. But, you know, we'll talk about Isengard next time.